The main essence of these sessions is basically to look at what we've been learning from on the platform. Hope you can see my screen. Can see my screen?
Yeah.
Good. All right. The main essence is to look at what we've been learning on the platform, but these sessions will also go through a series of things. I might call it sharing my philosophy or our philosophy to start with, then so that we don't just come to the call and wait for questions. We'll try to also highlight a few things, and then we can have a conversation. Okay. Yeah, I thought that was a break. So I'm going to start the conversation. Today's session would be around why strategy matters. And I will do a few things. I will talk about what I call the FIRA cycle. I'll tell a few stories. Hi, Elvis, how are you? We will also have a conversation and see how best this makes sense to each and every one of us that are here. I definitely wish more people will take advantage of this. But maybe I am taking too many huge guesses that people really need these things. So I will start with FIRA. Now, there are 4 words I have expressed here. And I want us to take a shot at either through the chat or make your voice heard to explain to me what your perception of these words are. The first is focus. The second is immersion. The third is repetition. And the fourth is accumulation. I will definitely try to explain in context, but let me hear from you to start with and say, if somebody just came to you and mentioned the word focus in the context of your profession, in the context of your business, in the context of whatever it is that you are trying to get done, side hustle, TC, what would you think focus means? What would you think immersion means? What would you think repetition means? Accumulation. So who wants to go for it? I'm going to open the chat as well and say if you want to type, I can read it out. Otherwise, you can also speak. So the floor is open.
Okay, I'll just go first. I would
Great.
talk about focus. Right. So focus to me is giving something your undivided attention, where nothing else matters at that point, apart from that thing that you want to achieve. Yeah, basically. So that's it.
Yeah, I like that. I like the fact that you said nothing else matters at that point. The reason I like it is because there's this notion of so-called multitasking, right? The notion of multitasking or sometimes takes us, how do I put it? It's a call, so to speak. Can you do many things at the same time? But I like the fact that you focus on and you said that, yes, focus is not just about paying attention to one thing, but within a finite period of time, right? So next up, any other thoughts on focus or any of the words that strike you?
Repetition.
Repetition. Sure.
The concept of do, check, act helps improve the process of repetition. Each morning we have a scheduled task to do to reach a particular goal. Repetition makes you better. Repetition makes you good and the best at what you do, because you've done it over and over again. You can do it with your eyes closed. The dangers of repetition is that you feel you know it all, but if you don't document your process and procedures, you might miss it one of these days. And when you are looking back to see where you missed it, you might not get it. That's the dangers So with the check, do check act, we can always keep ourselves on our toes to make sure that what we need to achieve is achieved.
That's brilliant. Plan, do, check, act. Just in case anyone may not have come across that. And I like the fact that you introduced that, Mighty Uche. Plan, do, check, act. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. And I like the fact that you said, Uche, that repetition sometimes leads to you thinking you have reached the peak. But you see, one of the things about the plan, do, check, act cycle is that it's a revolving cycle, but it's almost like you're using a tire to climb a hill. So you are actually revolving, but the expectation is that every cycle you do, you are actually improving until you get to the peak. So you're doing that cycle, you're repeating that cycle over time, you're rising. When you get to a certain point, you have to now shift your focus so that you repeat the same cycle with something else. Otherwise, like you said, you feel that this is the peak, because almost as if there's nothing else to learn here. When there's nothing else to learn in your initial point of focus, it makes sense to shift to something else and start the same principle of the same plan, do, check, act cycle. And I'll also explain how it applies here to the concept, or to the FIRA cycle. That's what we are calling here the FIRA cycle is also a cycle. Well, let me hear from others as well on other words, or you on other words. I like that point. Okay. Who wants to take another shot, one more shot before I say more? All right. So I will, delve in and let's assume that you start this FIRA cycle from focus. What I would say is, look, at any point in time in our lives, we can only do a finite set of things. And we've said this over and over again with respect to whether it's your business focus, unique value proposition, the job that you're doing. We can only do a finite set of things because we are limited in space, in time, in intelligence, whether we are learning something, whether we are doing a business or going to school. There's only a finite set of things we can do. Now, the challenge is now determining what should those top 3 things be that make the most sense. And I'll talk about how that comes in. But the challenge sometimes to have is, okay, what makes sense for me to focus on at this point in my life? What makes the most sense? Should it be a learning effort? Should it be a mentoring effort? Should it be accumulating money? And so forth. So one of the first key things is, can I select at least, I typically use the number 3 because I think it's a good balance to say, I am doing 1, 2, 3 in the area of my career. I'm doing 1, 2, 3 if I'm doing business. I'm doing 1, 2, 3, excuse me, in the area of my key goals, my family. So a few things that you can channel energy into. And that channeling energy into them is what I call immersion. Because in terms of one of the things that focus allows us to do is to inject the right amount of energy in that thing. You say, I really want to make this right. I really want to do this thing properly. I really want to learn this topic properly. I really want to know this business well. I really want to, and in my experience, a lot of times when we try to do so many things, we are dissipating energy and we are wasting time because we are spreading so much energy out that the time we are spending on the things we are doing doesn't yield the equivalent value that we probably expect. So the first step in this cycle is to say, what 3 things can I outline, articulate, and say, these are the 3 things I want to pay attention to. Then I say, how do I make sure that I go very deep in these 3 things for a sustained period? That's where repetition comes in. Continue to do it for a sustained period to achieve mastery, for a sustained period. And different kinds of subjects, whether something you're learning or a skill that you have, require different levels of attention to achieve mastery. When we continue to repeat on the cycle of immersion, doing the same thing every day, etc., at a point, we now begin to accumulate value. And Malcolm Gladwell said on average, it takes about 10,000 hours to achieve that level of mastery that you want in any subject. That's based on his research. And we always say from my point of view, it is better to learn from somebody else's experience than to learn from yours. Don't be the one trying to find out whether 10,000 hours is true. Because by the time you find out, you probably will have been too old to leverage it. Somebody has done the research. So how can I make the research useful to me? So that's where I think about it. So he has done research and said, look, if you focus attention on a particular thing, because all of us are given the same amount of time. So the point becomes, how do I choose what best makes sense for me to spend the next 10,000 hours on, so to speak, so that I accumulate enough value to be able to reap something from it, reap some value from it. And I put some examples here. Everything that we accumulate in this world yields some kind of eventual result. And there are some interesting examples here about accumulating sugar, accumulating books, accumulating money. Now, but the thing about it is that accumulating anything, going through this cycle on anything, is a guess we're making. It's a guess. There's no guarantee that if you and I accumulate sugar, that both of us will get diabetes. Sometimes one person gets diabetes, one doesn't. There's no guarantee that if you and I immerse ourselves in books for a sustained period, that we'll pass the exams that we take. We may not be taking the same exams. Our circumstances might be different. Our capacity to absorb knowledge might be different. And there's also no guarantee that if we both accumulate money, both of us will be wealthy. Maybe there could be some external force, like a disaster, like a stock market crash, like COVID, that affects us in different ways. So the reason why I'm saying that is that in our world, every time you go through the cycle of focus, immersion, repetition, accumulation, focus, immersion, repetition, accumulation, you're making a guess that at the end of that cycle, at the end of a certain number of cycles, which may turn out to be 10,000 hours, there is a certain value that you get. The value that we get at the end of that cycle is something that we can possibly leverage to go into a different cycle. And that is where the positioning comes in. For example, I have spent 10 years doing bookkeeping as an accountant. I have repeated the cycle. This is my focus. I know it in and out. I've done it many times. I've found out everything about it, right? I've accumulated a lot of things. I've accumulated knowledge. I've accumulated experience. I have accumulated, even if it's a perception of expertise. Now, in my next cycle, I now decide, is this something I want to leverage for something else, or do I just keep repeating the cycle? If it's something I want to leverage, I now need to pause and determine what value I've accumulated and how I can repurpose that value to go to another cycle. Do I want to go into consulting? Do I want to get another job? Do I want to start a business? Do I want to write a book? Do I want to create a training? So you now leverage the last cycle of the FIRA, where you have accumulated enough value, and take a guess, take a chance that what you've accumulated can create another kind of value for you. I don't know whether this makes sense. Makes sense? Questions at this point? Feedback? Experience sharing?
Yeah. For the is it the investment or what's the other one?
Plan, do, check, act.
No. I mean on this your call list.
Okay. Focus, immersion, repetition, accumulation.
Accumulation. Accumulation can be, hey, my phone is going off. Accumulation can be, we can use compounding effects of what we have done over the years. If we have eaten pizza or burger over the years, you have a tendency to grow as big as me. And if you have accumulated knowledge over the years, you have smart moves are inevitable. So, can you get me why?
Yeah, we got that. So the compounding effect, right? That's what you shared. The compounding effect. I like that. The compounding effect is true in finance, and it is also true in many other areas of life. You will discover that there are some things that are very easy for you to do that are not so easy for many other people to do. But if you don't realize that that is a value, you will probably not know how to deploy it. If we don't realize that something we have accumulated by, like Uche said, compounding interest has actually created value inside us, we probably will not know how to deploy it in a context that will generate another kind of value. And one of the words I have here in terms of being able to really go that deep is depth and diversity. Depth and diversity. That emotion comes from how well do you know this area you've decided to focus on, and what are the peripheral, relating elements. If it is a piece of knowledge, maybe there are other related pieces of knowledge. If it is a job, maybe there are other related jobs. Let me give an example. Assuming I used to be a database engineer. Assuming I'm a database engineer, I am supporting a core banking system. I can be very deep as a database engineer, but I can also create a little bit of diversity and understand how the core banking system interacts with my database. I understand how the ATM system interacts with my database. I understand how the AML, anti-money laundering system, interacts with my database. By the time I start stretching a bit, I'm doing a lot of depth, but I'm also diversifying so that as I grow in my willingness to mine value, I'm now becoming someone that understands not just databases, but banking systems. I don't know whether that makes sense for anyone. Make sense? Thumbs up, chats. Okay. Then, so let's move to the next slide because this is an accelerated session because of our number. Hopefully others will see it and see some value. Now, one of the things I wanted to do in this session as well is to segue from what we just discussed into the platform that we're using now. And I will interpret it this way. Having a platform of this nature, chase back. Having a platform of this nature, one of the things it does for us is to give us the opportunity to focus. And it doesn't necessarily have to be this platform, but the concept is there's so much knowledge out there. And I say, oh, I can go to LinkedIn and learn. I can go to Facebook and get news. But what if I could say, what I want to focus on for this period is X. And in this case, strategy, being able to take up a position. How do I accumulate value in that area? To accumulate value in anything, we must allocate time to it. In the context of our reality, we have 24 hours a day. We have chosen to do this. Let's assume that we've chosen that we actually want to be in the strategy club. And we're going to say, okay, I think 20 minutes a day makes sense as the investment I'm making on a daily basis to accumulate knowledge about this subject for a period of time. It's a period of time, right? And the question becomes, am I doing that? It takes a lot of discipline to do that. I can tell you, even no matter how advanced you are, sometimes you just need someone to keep nudging you. So that when you look back at the last 30 days, you must ask yourself, what could I have accomplished in the last 30 days that I didn't accomplish because I didn't give it attention? I'd like to, know reflections on that. Let's start ladies first. Elizabeth, what could I have accomplished if I decided, okay, this is something I want to focus on. I'm going to allocate this time to it on a daily basis for 30 days. Reflection. Pause, Selah. Pause and reflect. Yes. I think Elizabeth is speaking with the mic muted. Elvis. Oga Uche, what do you think? Reflections.
Question again.
So I started from the premise that we've talked about FIRA. The fact that to create, accumulate value, we must focus, immerse, repeat, and then begin to measure value. So let's take the example of the strategy club, the platform. If somebody wanted to get the best out of it, it may be a simple matter of saying, I want to allocate this amount of time every day over 30 days to accumulate the value that is here and really be immersed in it. The question I'm asking is, over the past 30 days, are there things, aside from just this example, you could think about that says, look, if I had done ABC every day for the past 30 days, I could have accomplished X or Y. Is there something you want to reflect on like that?
In the area of money, just like we open an account for our kids and we grow it till they are 20. By that time, they'll have millions in their accounts. If we consistently do it because of compounding interest, and also if we had invested it in something, it would have grown consistently because it's something that is automated. If we make ourselves a promise to get things done, and we don't automate it, there's no reminder, it's hard to say we achieve it except to have that willpower. We need to really be rigid on what we are focused on achieving and have a reminder somewhere. Because if we say, oh, if I say now I'm going to be putting a check in every month, there's every tendency that I'll miss it. But if we miss out that automation part, we might not get the full speed needed to get to where we are going to, or the, how would I put it, the traction we need to achieve our goal. So the automation part, we need to really put it in place. Except we have someone that is nudging us on, as you said earlier. So that's my reflection on this.
Beautiful. I like that automation part. And it works for money. It works for learning something. And it also works. It also works in terms of putting an effort, maybe in your work, for example. I like the money example. And I'll, from personal experience, if I say, fact, every month I'm going to put 1,000 cedis into an account, there will be something that comes up every month that will force you not to put that money into a savings. And
that's the spirit of money.
Yeah. Maybe, but if you automate it, the money leaves your account before you can think about it. Then if you are now under stress and you have to go to the account, maybe it's your sons or daughters. Sometimes when I go to borrow my son's money or my daughter's money, the teller will ask you, have you spoken to the owner of this account? So it makes you want to think twice before going there to borrow money from the account, right? Because it's something you've automated. Whether it's also in terms of learning, a reminder. And sometimes if you automate something, if you do it in chunks, in little chunks, if it's money, you say instead of 1,000, I'm going to do 200, and I know I'm going to do it consistently. Compound interest, patience, discipline over time, you probably will get greater results than at saying, oh, I'm going to wait in the end of the year, but when there's a windfall, I'll do this. Or I'm going to learn, I'm going to go through this strategy course. I just need to make 10 hours available. What if you say, I'm going to do 5 minutes a day over the next 10 days? Discover, or over the next 10 days, you discover that you've actually achieved that goal by doing it in chunks. Discipline, I don't think it comes naturally to most people. So, like Uche said, we now have to create mechanisms to push ourselves. We have to create mechanisms to push ourselves in something or the other at any point in time. Is it writing a book, 1 page a day? Is it saving money, like Uche has given the example? Is it learning strategy? Is it reading a book? I remember one exam I had to take. It's called the Akitura. Akitura, my organization paid for it before I left EcoBank. That was 2022, thereabout. Yeah, I think 2022. I kept procrastinating this until the thing was about to expire, deadlines, which is another useful thing. When the thing was about to expire 1 week, do you know that I sat down and read 5 volumes? I can show you them. I read 5 volumes of Akitura. Let me see whether I can bring it out. This is the set. I hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Can you see what I'm showing you? Or maybe I have to stop sharing for you to see it. Can anyone see these books?
I can see.
Great. I read it in 1 week because it was time to do it. I would sit in the washroom and be reading. I would lie on the chair in the parlor. It can be done. But if there's no push, no deadline, no plan, no allocation of time, you find out that it looks like it can't be done. The same thing with if you've ever tried to learn a language on Duolingo. Duolingo has mechanisms for reminding you daily, and you start learning that language. You'll be surprised that when you get into a conversation after doing it consistently for maybe 60 days, 100 days, they have streaks on Duolingo. You'll be surprised that you actually know quite a lot about that language. And meanwhile, this is something you could have paid XXX dollars to go for a language course, which may not even work. So we have capacity to do so much, but we must shape the mechanisms and say, I really want to do this. And I want to encourage you to apply that to our little brother here, tscafrica.com. You will find value. One of the things I wanted to do in this session was to go through what people have learned, but because we're so few, I won't take too much of that time so that we can close hopefully by 6. You probably have already seen these definitions. One of my thoughts was to discuss it. Maybe the next time you come, we can discuss it in greater detail, right? We'll repeat this. But let me go to the element of choices, which is one of the key definitions that we actually, well, great to see you. Thank you for joining. One of the key definitions that we adopt about an integrated set of choices. Please raise your hand or type in the chat if you brushed your teeth this morning. Have you brushed your teeth this morning? Type yes in the chat. Did you eat something for lunch or breakfast today? Yes. Describe what you're wearing. Maybe it's a red shirt, green blouse, eyeglasses, just lunch. Yes, me too. I don't eat on Sunday mornings. Elvis, yes. What else? Yes. So we all make what? Choices. We make choices. Why did you brush your teeth? Who can tell me why you brushed your teeth? Something very simple. Blue shirt on blue jeans. Thank you very much. That's what Elvis chose to wear. I will come to that. But why did you? Yeah, I like that answer, Elvis. Routine. Somehow we have mastered the habits. And maybe we've been taught that if we don't brush our teeth, it's going to smell, etc., etc., it's going to rot over time. And remember that if you stop brushing your teeth today, your teeth will not get rotten today. Maybe it will start smelling after a week or two. Maybe it will start really getting bad after a month. Imagine, just think about what happens after a month of not brushing your teeth daily, etc. Eating, drinking water, yeah. And the same thing with eating. If you skip breakfast like we did today, you'll be fine. Skip lunch, okay. By the time, those days we used to fast for 3 days. On the second day of the fast, your legs and I don't know whether everybody experiences it, but my shin, the back of my legs, they start hurting. The muscles start pulling severely on the second day. That's when you have eaten nothing. It's not 6 to 6 fast. This is complete dry fast, no water, no food. So you sleep, and of course it's difficult to sleep at night when you have not eaten. But by the time I wake up, the back of my legs are hurting. Something you've chosen to do, not eat, starts reflecting. By the second day, you're completely weak. You don't want to have any conversation. So start on Friday, maybe by Monday morning, that's when you now have your next meal. Then at that point, you really appreciate food. So the accumulation of the choice that you make is resulting in some. Now, some of these are what we might call trivial choices. Some of these are trivial choices. There are some other critical choices that we make with our lives. Maybe the school you chose to go to, the job you chose, the business you're doing, the topic you chose to write for your book. The choice you made of one thing over another. There are times in my life where maybe I watch a movie for 2 hours. Some movies 1 hour plus 2 hours. And I asked myself, what could I have done with these 2 hours? It's opportunity costs. There's something you lost by choosing the movie, right? There's something you lost by choosing the movie. Now, that brings us to a point where we now ask, what is driving our choices? That means asking why. Number two, is there a way to, sorry for that, is there a way to articulate our choices so that together they make sense? That's what we call an integrated set of choices. Together, our choices make sense. And I'll give a simple example of together choices making sense, right? Assuming I say, I'm going to move from Lagos to Accra because I want to do business, I want to find more clients. Are we still together? What I've said so far, does it make sense? Is it matching? Is it hitting somewhere? Am I wasting your time, or you're picking up something? Is anybody picking up anything?
Yes.
Are we still listening? Yeah, we're good. Okay. We're going. Thank you. Now, somebody moves from Lagos to Accra and says, the choice I've made is that I'm going to move from Lagos to Accra because I want to, the kind of business I'm doing, I feel the clients are in Accra. And I need to make that move. I'm going to get a house and I'm going to start business, or I'm going to, continue my business in Accra. Now, that person now makes the choice and says, I'm going to live in an estate in Accra, and I'm going to start my business. Then he gets to that estate, then they give him the terms of staying in the estate. This is a residential area. You can't do business in your house. Anybody that wants to visit you, they have to fill their form at the gate. Then he now chooses that house. He has not made an integrated sort of choice because his choices don't make sense together. His first choice was that the reason I'm moving to Accra is because I want to do business. But he has chosen a residence that restricts his capacity to work from home and forces him to spend more money to go and rent a business space. Because the reason why he moved was because he wasn't doing well in Lagos, right? He moved to Accra. But now he makes another set of choices that don't make sense together. So it takes a deep level of reflection to arrive at a set of choices that makes sense together, integrated sense of choices, and gives you an advantage. So for every choice we are making, we have to be intentional. There are some choices that are trivial, like Elvis said, routine. You just brush your teeth. Maybe you now raise that choice to which toothpaste am I using, which toothbrush. Do I brush once a day, twice a day, more sophisticated? But there are some also costly choices we are making, right? And for each choice that is not a trivial choice, it makes sense to ask why. Why am I buying this car? Am I trying to impress someone? Why am I choosing this place to live? Why am I spending this money? Why am I taking this job? Why am I starting this business? The ability to ask why helps you to make sure that the next choice you're making aligns with the last one you made, assuming that you are always asking why. So when we don't ask why, we tend to drift through life, right? Asking why is like, okay, I know where I am now. Can I make a guess about what might be? And the third thing I really want to tell us today is we have to take responsibility for our choices. Whether it's choices we've already made, some of us maybe were over 40. I started reflecting on some of these choices, and that's when I wrote the book, If I Were to Live Again, at about the time I turned 40. What choices have I made? What choices did I make about my job? I remember when I started work, on the second day of my contract work, I got, I was already in the process of, interviews with Nigerian liquefied natural gas. And then I got the job as a contract staff in Airtel. Second day, I was supposed to go for assessment center, the last level. Up to today, I still ask myself, did I make the right choice? Should I have found a way to go for that assessment center? Or is this, I mean, you always, but the point is that some choices have already been made. Instead of saying, it was because of that guy, he's the one that caused it. Oh, God didn't want me to do this. Oh, this and this and that. We have to own our choices so that we now begin to be more deliberate about our current choices and the future choices so that they begin to make sense together. Whether it's a choice about our personal lives or our business or our career. I hope this makes sense. We must always question, especially when it's not a trivial choice. Why am I choosing to do this? Why should I do this? On what basis am I making this decision? So that they connect. The choices we're making connect. All right. We're good? Okay. So this is a video I wanted us to reflect on, but I'm going to skip it. I'm just, okay, let me play for 5 minutes just as a, go downstairs. Okay, go and stay with mommy. I'm coming. Thank you. All right, that was my daughter. All right. So if you want to face this kind of people, you want to be prepared. You want to be really, really prepared, right? And to take the heat. One more interesting person that I want to really focus on in this conversation is Adenike Ogunlesi. Adenike Ogunlesi is the founder of Rough and Tumble, and it has an interesting story. Rough and Tumble was, she started Rough and Tumble in the booth of her car. So this was one of those people that, as exposed as she is, as beautiful as she is, she didn't mind going from one spot to the other, selling clothing from the booth of her car. Now it's become a big name and everybody like, oh, she's so sophisticated, she's so aloof. She's not. She's just grown. And it's the same thing. And that's the focus of what we want to dig into today. The issue of being able to bootstrap, start small, think big, grow fast, grow intelligently, right? So these are the kind of people that this young man, came to talk to, so to speak. And we're going to look at that video again and look at it one step at a time at some of the things that they were saying. I'm going to just scroll it back and start again.
Your business was established in 2018?
Yeah. Your business was established in 2018. I want to believe that at the time of this conversation, the business was about 4 years old. That puts it about 2022 when this session was going on.
And in 2021?
No revenues yet.
Okay.
Are you joking?
So Adenike asks him, are you joking? Because it doesn't make sense to her. It doesn't make sense to her that he's been, doing this business for 4 years and he's not made any revenue at all. So somebody will ask, how did he even get to this point? How did he get to a point where he's standing in front of these 4 giants in the industry and he has little or nothing to say? How? Now, I want to say something about it, and don't take my word for it, don't quote me, but this is a theory. There are quite a few of these, pitch competitions, accelerator programs, and all this stuff that people rely on who they know to get in. And it doesn't pay anyone because, first of all, you deprive those who are actually doing something the opportunity to get funded. Secondly, you basically waste the investors' time. There's money to be invested, but they are not getting the right people. Another point is that eventually, if you are not serious about your work, you will obviously fail at the end of the day. Whether you fail in the pitch competition, or you fail in the investment, or you fail in the business, the best thing is forget about shortcuts and basically, get into that realm where you are actually focused on delivering real value, right? So let's look again. Let's look again at what's going on here. Yeah.
So what have you done in the 4 years?
So we've been taking our time to establish the websites and also trying to establish the businesses that we have.
Well, if I was not on national TV, my language might be quite expressive. But honestly, I think you're wasting your time and you came to waste our time.
I'm so offended. I don't know. I don't have the words.
Now, I want you to notice again, I mentioned that Bolaji had said he's basically restraining himself. So this young man, and I want you to take a look at the young man's face very closely. He's very, at the beginning, he's very confident that he is on the right track. He walks in confidently, he's doing the right thing, he's answering boldly, no revenue. And then he begins to say, we were establishing our website, we were establishing our other businesses. What does establishing mean in 4 years? What does building a website mean in 4 years? Was he focused on the right thing, right? What does that really mean? And then Audrey says, I'm so offended, which is natural. And I want you to understand the implications of that. If this young man comes back to Lions Den again, will he be taken seriously? Now, with the spread of this video on the internet, if he applies for any other accelerator program, investor program, reality TV show focused on business, how will he be perceived? It's important to think long term in these things so that we're not just trying to get in by all means. We're not going to try to get in where we are not prepared, right? We need to be prepared when we are getting in.
It's not so much the 0,000 revenues. Is that I look at your website, it's a new dawn for oil and gas, industrial marine, consultancy, energy services, logistics. I'm not sure what you've come to present. And in the nothingness of your presentation, you are valuing nothing at 200 million.
You are a poor representation of the youth of this country.
Yeah, so Audrey says you are valuing nothing at 200 million naira. Now, why is it nothing? It's nothing because though you have a very fine looking website, though you have made a lot of claims on the website, the worth is worth very little, is worth almost nothing, and you're asking people to invest in nothing. Investors want to see traction. They want to see that you're moving on the things that matter. Investors don't want to see a website or a fancy logo or a well-dressed person. They want to see business that is actually moving, and they want to key into it. They want to get on board and help you do what you are already doing. So traction is very important. They want to help you do what you're already doing, right? Very important to know that. And so he didn't know that. He thought that, okay, a nice website will get me visibility. Maybe he has a friend in the company and they got him in to present, or maybe for whatever reason they got him in to present. He felt confident that he was on the right track. But Audrey rightly said, you are trying to get 200 million naira for nothing.
who are busting themselves to come up with ideas, who are busting themselves to work hard to make something of themselves.
If you want to be a businessman, you need to think of an idea, right? Then you need to go and execute that idea to a certain
All right, so there's a lot to see.
point.
Let me there's a lot to see, but let me get your quick thoughts. We're going to close in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Now, if you think about this video only in the context of somebody making a pitch, you won't be able to see how it applies to all of us. And I'll just quickly, run through some things that I've typed in the chat. The young man made choices around what his focus was. And we started that conversation today with respect to what is necessary to focus on. He made certain assumptions as well. He spent, according to his testimony, 4 years maybe building a website because he thought that was what was important rather than building a business. Now, sometimes we talk about resilience, we talk about persistence. We must also know when we have done that cycle enough to determine that the value we anticipated is not coming and we need to what? Pull out. And I want you to also notice that he thought he needed a lot of money to start what he wanted to do, but that may not be the case. Sometimes we think we need a new job, we need to change location, but maybe we just need more thinking. Maybe we not just need more reflection. Maybe we just need more consulting. Maybe we need to evaluate options. But we think that what we really need is $200 million. Please, let me take one reflection from this, if anybody has caught the point before I move on. Any reflections in the context of all we've been talking about?
I have two.
Okay, go ahead. Two reflections, that's fine.
Achievement on as a group. For the achievement as a group, there's a lot that we can do, just like eating an elephant. I would think, oh, this elephant is too big. You can't finish it. But if we start picking it, each day we do some, each day we eat some, each day we eat pepper soup, each day we eat, the other day we eat grilled elephants, the other day we do elephant stew and the rest of them. Before we say Jack Robinson, the elephant is gone. So that is one way to eat an elephant. Together, or even if you are isolated, you need to eat it a piece at a time for you to achieve that whole goal of eating an elephant. The second one is brings my mind back to the story told by one of the authors of some of the Amazon people. We know how primitive we think they are, but they have some understanding that we don't. They want a tree out of the way, and the whole community is called together to speak to that tree, to tell the tree to die just by words. So they come together, they speak that the tree will die, and in the third day they came back and the tree died. That's the power of a force of a community like ours. There are certain things we want to achieve. If we put our heart to it, if we agree with each other, it is possible. My reflection.
Okay. Eating an elephant one piece at a time. Again, comes to focus, focusing energy. All right, let's hear from Archibald. I would not hear the voice today. At least say hello. Reflections?
Yeah, hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing great yourself. I'm happy I'm here today.
Awesome, awesome. All right, thank you. So Uche has talked about that group stuff, and if I connect it back to that video and to that conversation around thinking of what I want, I would say that sometimes being able to come together like this and ask questions around how is this done? Because sometimes when we are isolated, like this guy probably was, we have our own, definition of what is important. But meanwhile, the next person to you has the answer to the problem. There's another illustration I had for the young people, which is about acquiring scholarships, where the young guy knew who to ask. Okay, how does this scholarship work? All right, it's like leveraging social capital, and which has talked to that. Meanwhile, you could also say, I think I should focus on building a website. But that shouldn't have been the top 3 things you should have focused on. So, but he made his choices. The guy in the video made his choices. He now gets to the end of the road, 4 years down the line. It's his big moment, but he has made the wrong choices. And one of the people talking to him in that call made the right choices. She was selling clothes from the booth of her car. She spent enough time doing that and was iterative enough in the FIRA cycle to get to a point where she no longer needed the booth of her car. And many people have done this. I tried to frame this, and I said at the beginning that it's better to learn from what people have done and do it. Sometimes we want a quantum leap. A quantum leap is possible. But sometimes a quantum leap happens if we are at the right place to receive the attention we need for us to have that quantum leap. And I can give examples, but for time. This flow in front of us kind of like summarizes some of the things we also said, saying it another way. And the way you see this presentation happening, you really have to be engaged mentally to connect the dots so that it makes sense. I hope we are all doing that. A lot of people who have passed through the cycle, it's not a short cycle. It's not a certain cycle. And I said at the beginning that we make guesses about what might be when we make our choices. But we must have established that our choices are logical. And that's where we spoke to the integrated set of choices, right? For us to say we now want to put the effort in this area. So define success. Determine what are the forces around that are competing for you. Is it people looking for the next job like you or the next level of promotion? Evaluate your advantage. Are there strengths that you have that you want to leverage? Because when you go into that immersion space, you must be doing something that you will get value from in the shortest possible time, right? Analyze your environment. What are the opportunities that are around you that you can fully leverage as you're repeating the cycle? You're observing, you're learning, you're improving. Remember, the repetition of the FIRA cycle has to be progressive. Otherwise, like we just said, you just think that I've reached the peak, but you've not really reached the peak. You've just been exerting a lot of energy. This guy came into the video confident that he was doing the right thing. Then finally, tailor your approach. There's that customization. Because the fact that I keep saying it, somebody else has done something doesn't mean you can do it. There is a context. We must embrace our own context, right? To be able to say, this is what progress means for me. This is what success means for me, and so forth. Are we still together? I keep saying 5 more minutes, but it keeps getting more interesting. I hope we're still together. I promise you I'll wrap up by 1:50. I have 2 slides left. This one is a story. Please give me a chat if you're still with me. I know I can be boring sometimes and can be mentally tasking to follow. Are we still together? Type in the chat. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. So this short story, I'm just going to look at the short story. So let's see whether we can see this very clearly. So Sarah Bakley, you may or may not know her. She's 54 now, but she founded a company called Spanx by the age of 27. Before she went into that business, she knew nothing about business. She was selling fax machines door to door, salesperson. She had no background. Her strength was not in business. Her strength was not in fashion, but she wanted to make I think it's called hoistery or something. Yeah, hoistery, H-O-I-S-E-R-Y. Elizabeth will tell us what that is. Elizabeth, what's hoistery? Hoistery. Okay. Generally, I learned is anything around stockings, socks, tights. Because she had a problem with the one she was buying. So that personal story we talk about in terms of raising a pitch, it was there. Her strength was not in business or in fashion, but her strength was in something called hucksterism. She could bother you until you buy the product. She could hammer until you do what she's asking you to do. So what are some of the things she did intentionally? She said, I can't keep selling fax machines. And in my case, there was a time I said to myself, if I look very well at this company, I don't think, in fact, there are many of those points in my life. There was a point I said to myself, I used to assemble computers. I don't want to be assembling computers for the rest of my life. Especially at that time, it was pirated software. That was my problem. So I had to make a shift and said, okay, let me learn something. Let me take the opportunity I got in wireless networking and move from there. At another point, I said to myself, I don't think I want to be a DB anymore. I don't see the future here. Even though I may have been wrong, there are people that are still doing data engineering. There are still people that are still morphed into data, but I had to make a difference. No, I don't think I really want to keep being a data engineer. I want to do something higher. I want to do something more strategic. So sometimes you have to get to a point in your life where you said, I want to choose something. It can be hard to make that shift, hard to learn the new skills, hard to make the change, but you have to make the choice in order to begin the change. So she said, look, I can't keep selling fax machines. Even though I don't know anything about business, I don't know anything about manufacturing, but I have a skill. I can bother people until they yield, right? Then she used her savings, $5,000. She took the risk and designed a product in that niche of hoistery. She did some research by herself. She called hoistery mills, people who would be willing to make whatever she had designed, until one finally gave her a shot. Again, her hucksterism at work. She even wrote her own patent by herself because she couldn't pay lawyers. Excuse me. Then to get visibility, he wrote notes to Oprah Winfrey so that they featured her on her show. That is how she exploded. Now, when you tell this story, it looks like a very simple story. We are inspired, but you see, this takes time. This takes failures. This takes a lot of no's. This takes a long time. Assuming we have found the appropriate thing to focus on for a protracted period of time. And some people find it. One way to find that thing is to do a self-assessment. And that's why we talk about SWOT a lot. Many people have seen this picture. But many of us, including me, in many areas of our lives, we've not sat down to say, how can I analyze myself deeply enough to know the top 3 things I should be focused on in the next cycle of my life, so that I can go from that focus to immersion to repetition up till accumulation of value, to the point that somebody calls you and says, I just saw your post. I have a job for you as an enterprise architect. Do you want it? It takes a period of time. It takes a period of focus. You are making a guess that may or may not work. But that's the FIRA cycle. All right, so let me stop here. Any questions, further contributions, questions on what you're doing? The next time we're going to talk about recovering lost time. We may have to repeat this for others, but let's see how it goes. But if there are questions or any additional thoughts, we'll do that in 3 to 5 minutes and we let each other go. Who wants to share something? Have I confused you or have I helped you? Is there a path forward from this session? Is there something you can inject into your already profound knowledge? Who wants to share something? Vivian just came in. Okay. Anyone? Archibald, please go ahead. I'd like to hear your voice.
All right, thank you very much. I think I joined a bit late, so I was struggling a bit to get the bearing of where the discussion was going. But what caught my attention was the illustration on the part you stated that you were preparing for an exam and then you kept procrastinating. I think there are times when it is not about procrastinating entirely, but where the opportunity cost comes in, you have about 2-3 things you want to do, you want to achieve. The time to achieve all 3 is a bit short. How do you prioritize to know that I need to maybe concentrate on one, complete it, take the next complete, or probably because of the way they are, I'll do a bit of this at a time, a bit of this, and then go all along with the 3. So that is where sometimes it gets some people struggling as to what to pick, and then time will still be going. But I think I got something from there to kind of look at the priorities, which one you think that you can finish quickly and then jump on to the next one. Sometimes it helps better than picking the hardest and then struggling through whilst the simple one is there to complete. Knowing that you have completed the simplest one gives you the encouragement to pick on the next. So I think that is what I picked from there.
Thank you very much. I think that is very, very insightful. Where we started by saying focus could mean, let's put it that way, select the top 3 that you want to accomplish. And you have just added very good insight to it, saying, why not start from the simplest one so that you get it done and then it motivates you to the next etc. I think that is very useful, right? Because there's no point claiming that I'm going to do this, that, and nothing gets done, right? And I would also ask, say that you can develop a theory around which one would make the most sense at this time. Sense may mean which one will earn money. Sense may mean which one would prepare me for the next opportunity. Sense may mean a lot of things, but I just think that if we embrace a logical way of thinking, we can make more informed guesses as to what to focus on for a period of time. And Elizabeth told us at that time, highlighted that point at which, that when we say focus, we're saying for any given period of time, the energy we have must be sunk into particular things in order for us to make progress. Keep doing that cycle. Switch a bit, keep doing that cycle. Sometimes we need encouragement to do that, coaching. Sometimes we need automation, like Uche mentioned. Sometimes we need a community like this to help us keep going. All right. Vivian, it's good to see you. How are you doing? We're good. All right. So can we take one more reflection? Then we close out. Let me see the chat. Yes, one greetings, Mr. Kenneth. I'm happy to be able, kindly permit me to listen. Awesome. Thank you so much. So we started quite some time ago and we've tried to record it. So we'll share the recording. Hopefully others will also gain value. And I hope it's been a good use of your time. As we wrap up, if we don't repeat this for the sake of others, we might go on to another topic around recovering lost time. And we have to just, I'll try to share from my experience in that next cycle. That will be probably either next month or 2 months time. So one of the things I want to encourage you to do is to take the time to go through the strategy course at least. That is why we are charging, so that you see it as something important. And it does take quite some reflection to say, what does this mean to me? I firmly believe those thoughts that I have put together there on the platform are fully relevant in many areas. We just have to reflect enough to know where they fit. So take the time, 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. So anytime we come together, it will be to go deeper. Are we together? Hope that makes sense. Good. Thank you very, very much for giving me your time today. So we will wrap up. This is where we will just wrap up. And sorry, I was going to show you. What did I do? I think I stopped my sharing. We just as a quick recap in case you came later. We talked about very, very simple things in the context of strategy. We talked about what we call the FIRA cycle. Being able to identify something to focus on, immerse ourselves in it, continually repeat until we accumulate value. And there are theories around that which we can leverage. We talked about whether we've been able to look at this strategy course and whether we have any questions. We didn't go too deep because we don't have much of an audience today. We also didn't go too deep around the definitions and what they mean. But we talked a lot about intentional choices. There are some trivial choices we make. There are critical choices. And the fact that we must ask why and take responsibility for our choices. Ask why and take responsibility for our choices. We looked at this guy's scenario and what it means in the context of bootstrapping and try to, imbibe it in any other context. We also looked at this flow, which is another way of representing the FIRA cycle. Then we give the example of this lady who made intentional choices, Sarah Blackley, right? Who was very limited in terms of what she had, whether in terms of money or in terms of contacts, in terms of skills, but was able to use something very basic, hucksterism, to succeed. And then we talked about the idea of using thinking tools to start to arrive at that set of 3 things that we want to focus on and go through that FIRA cycle. All right, so thank you so much for being here. And I will stop my share. I want to appreciate you. Let's keep connected. And like Uche said, let's together eat some of these elephants 1 bit at a time. All right, see you next time, okay? Yeah. Bye then. Bye.
Bye.